Good morning and welcome to the Foster Swift Sports Talk podcast. I'm your host, Dave Russell. I'm joined with my co-host, Charlie Sarche. Today we're joined with guest Tim Bograkos. Tim was probably best known as a basketball player at Michigan State from 2000 to 2005. Started out as a walk-on player for Michigan State. Later earned a scholarship, played in 2 Final Fours, won a Big Ten championship. After Michigan State, played professionally, I believe, in Greece and Finland for a couple of years. Came back after that to work for Michigan State in the alumni relations world, and now with Maynard Casterison as I believe, a business development leader over there. So, Tim, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no, excited to be here. I appreciate you guys asking me to do it.
Yeah, it's good to talk to you. So, we've been talking on these podcasts kind of the changing landscape of college sports. And so I'd love to, start with kind of hear your journey to Michigan State and what that looked like.
Yeah, absolutely. So I when I was coming out of high school, my high school coach, Stan Gooch, had a great relationship with the coaching staff down here. And so he'd worked it out where I could start coming down here and playing pickup ball with the team. Just a couple days a week, I would drive down. He would drive me down a lot of the time. Just to come and start to play. He thought that I had enough in me that I could at least help make the team as a walk-on. He probably saw more in me than I saw in myself at that point. So I would drive down, maybe play a game or two at the end of open gym when the good players were done playing or the starters were done playing and they needed someone to fill in. And then I did that consistently, and that turned into Iz and Brian Gregory at the time grabbed me and saying like, hey, you've got a spot as a walk-on if you want to join the team. I was already coming to Michigan State. I had been admitted. I was like, well, worst case, I'm going to go to Michigan State as just a student. And I had taken visits. I had visited Ferris State potentially for football at that point, and I had visited Kent State for basketball, and nothing happened with Ferris. Kent State gave me the same thing. They were like, they have a walk-on spot for you if you want to come down to Kent State. When I started looking at it, I was kind of like, well, I could walk on at the defending national champions, where I have an affinity because both my parents went here. I love, it's close to home. Or I could go to Kent State, who are a really good team. Gary Waters was the coach down there. He was great. They were a tournament team at that point, but the choice was easy for me, so I chose to walk on here.
That's cool.
So those were the 2 other schools. Other than that, were you sending out emails? Were you doing that whole thing?
I was doing everything. Yeah, my baseball coach was really hard on it. It was actually, baseball was probably my best sport from like an accolade statistic standpoint. I think my senior year I was an honorable mention All-American in baseball, USA Today baseball. So my baseball coach tried really hard to get me to go play somewhere, but nothing worked out. I probably could have had the chance to do both at MSU, but it's too hard. I mean, you have to be a super athlete to play 2, and I knew I was going to have to commit to one, and I loved basketball a lot more than I think I liked baseball at that time. So we tried it all, but it just it worked out the way it's supposed to, as my wife always says.
What position in football?
I was a quarterback and a free safety in football, and then I played center field in baseball.
Nice.
And you came out of Flint, is that right?
Yeah, Flint Central.
Okay, well, obviously a lot of good players came out of Flint to play basketball at Michigan State.
Yeah. Those guys are, they're like big brothers to me. We all grew up basically playing in the same organization for AAU for a long time. And so I've known those guys. I always tell a funny story of Charlie. Charlie was put in charge of all of us kids at AAU tournaments sometimes as a babysitter, and he would just beat the crap out of us in hotel rooms with pillows, and while our parents all went out for dinner or went out and had a cocktail or whatever. So I've gotten a good chance. I've known those guys forever, and they obviously laid an unbelievable foundation for Michigan State basketball, but for the city of Flint as well.
So keep walking us through being a walk-on. Through your time that you were there, got more playing time. How did that work?
So when I first came in, it was really like, I had some great walk-ons with me. Obviously, Brandon Smith was there. Matt Ishby was there. They were coming off the national championship, and they really pulled me aside and along with some of the other guys that were, and said, our scout team and our practice guys are extremely important to the program to make sure that we're, giving the starters a good look so we understand what the opponents are doing so they can be ready for game day. So when I initially got there, they kind of took me under my wing and said, this is what you have to do every day. You got to commit to doing this. It's not glamorous. No one's gonna know it, what you're doing, but we'll know. Everyone in the program knows. And so we knew the importance of that, of what, the role everybody plays from the starters all the way down to the the administrative staff in the office. Everybody plays a role in creating an elite program. So that was my first kind of introduction to it. Following that, I was kind of lucky in the fact that after my freshman year, we had 5 seniors graduate, and then we had 2 guys go pro early. So Jason Richardson left, Zach Randolph left. You look to the next season, we have a short bench, and we run into a situation in a game where we had some foul trouble, and then I get put into a game against Oklahoma, and I happen to play really well on the defensive end and doing kind of the hustle things. And along with that, in the offseason, Coach Izzo, one of his old coaches, would visit us and watch us practice, and he pulled me aside one day and he said, there's a role in minutes for you on this team if you can commit to defensively playing hard, rebounding, diving for loose balls, and just doing that scrappy stuff with it. We don't have anyone on the team that does that. And so if you can commit to doing that every single day, you can find 10 to 20 minutes on the court. And so I kind of took his advice, and I committed to doing that every day. And that kind of helped shape the way I played, and I just kept finding minutes and spots. And it was 10 minutes here. There was games I played 30 minutes. I got to start a little bit, and so I credit him a lot with helping me kind of find my role in the team and where I fit. And then obviously Coach Izzo was great at giving walk-ons opportunities and people opportunities if you earn it. And so that was it was the right timing of guys leaving and graduating and us needing, and I opportunity came, and I was fortunate enough to take advantage of it.
How did that look when you were offered the scholarship or told you were going to be on scholarship?
It's funny. I don't remember.
Really?
I really don't. It wasn't like a big ceremonial thing. I'm guessing,
maybe it was a little more important to your parents than it was to you.
They were thrilled. They were thrilled. But, I wish I could remember that it was like Coach brought me in and gave me this great motivational talk. And it was really just, I'm guessing he brought me into the office and just kind of let me know, and I called my folks.
Yeah.
So, but it's cool. I mean, to earn that and to be able to keep it for the 3 years I was still playing was awesome.
Yeah, that's great. So, Tim, obviously your time playing was before the new NIL era that we're dealing with now. And like you said, you kind of had that hustle mentality. Mm-hmm. You didn't have, a bunch of NIL dollars backing you up, motivating you to play hard and hustle like you did. Can you just kind of walk us through your mentality when you played, and maybe how other players now can kind of replicate that, even with this NIL thing being so prominent?
Yeah, I think like mentality wise, I always loved to compete. Or even as I was a kid, I always loved to compete. I wasn't always the best player on any team I was on. I was good, I was a good player. But I just had a knack for, I love to compete and get after it and work hard. And then at that point, our program was built on that foundation of like, we outwork everybody. And so it was talked about in the off season. It was talked about, in the weight room, when you're conditioning, when you're playing. We were just a hard-nosed, gritty team. And so you just kind of, through osmosis, kind of learn like, hey, this is how we got to do it. And so it fit my personality. It fit my, my style of play. And I love to just, one-on-one on the court, just getting after it with your teammates against the other team in some respects. But I don't know, it just fits my way of doing things. Mm-hmm. Is kind of the best way that just the attitude of the team fit my same attitude. Do you
have any idea how coaches are going to try to instill that attitude, even with the NIL thing going on?
I don't. I mean, for like guys that I played in, like you played to almost protect the program. Mm-hmm. It was like, man, the guys that came before us built something that we want to make sure we uphold that standard. And, that was really the talk of like, this is the standard of how we operate as a program, and you have to maintain it. And now with guys and how easy it is to leave, and you really, a lot of them are individually looking at how they maximize their earning potential. Mm-hmm. It's going to be different. Rosters are turning over year. So even for fans, it's how to, where you have to support the program versus, supporting players in some respect.
Yeah, when you're there during a time when, if you transferred, I think you had to sit out a year. Is that mm-hmm. right?
Yeah, it wasn't even a thought. I mean, I had one teammate transfer. Brandon Cotton transferred when we were there, but it wasn't even a conversation around leaving. Like, I think I called my mom one time and said, coaches, it's unfair. I'm not getting this and that. And she said to me, what do you want from me? Like, go talk to him. You want to play more? Go talk to him. Figure out how to play more. So it would have been much different if the rules were now. There'd be guys, there are a lot of guys who think they should play. And I think we see that in the transfer portal, right, where there's more players than there are places to go play. I think it's the ultimate way for people to understand how good they really are is you could enter the transfer portal and no one wants you.
Right. Yeah. It's a whole new world.
Yeah.
So talk about playing in a Final Four and what that looks like. That had to be really exciting.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I tell people everything just ratchets up, 5-10x more. There's more fans at practice. There's more, intensity. It's just it's an unbelievable experience. I was lucky my freshman year I got to do it as a redshirt, so I got to kind of see it and experience it with the guys who had been. I mean, those guys had been to 4 of them in a row at that point, so it was expected we were going to be there. But to watch how they handled preparation, film study, walkthroughs, practices, shoot-arounds, and just to understand and talk about what it means to continue to separate yourself every weekend, right? There's less and less teams every weekend. So it just means more and more. You got to put more and more to it, have more and more focus because you want to be, you ultimately want to be the last team cutting down the nets. But making it to that last 4 is a special thing.
Where were those games at?
My freshman year was in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And we lost to Arizona. They beat us up pretty good. And then my senior year was in St. Louis against North Carolina, and they beat us up pretty good. We were beating North Carolina at halftime though. Okay. And I still think if Allen Anderson hurt his knee the previous weekend, I think he tore his meniscus the previous weekend in the tournament. And I think if he stayed healthy, I think we would have knocked him off.
Yeah.
What are some of the big game moments that you remember most from your playing days?
Oh man. So obviously the big one's the Kentucky game, right? I was in the game able to hit a shot to beat Kentucky, and that's a funny story because I probably wouldn't have been in the game, but Calvin Torbert got a concussion earlier in that game, so he was hurt. Maurice Ager was just coming back off a stress fracture, so he was limited on minutes, and so I ended up playing 25, 30 minutes that game, and so that's a big one. It's I remember my senior year, the tournament run is always memorable because at that point most of the media had picked us to lose in the first round. They were kind of saying we were the worst class, senior class that Izzo had at that moment. We were going to break the all recruited classes go to the Final Four streak, and so we were able to kind of go on a run and just hunker in as a team and just all the 15 guys in the room. Like I said, the trainers, the managers, the administration staff, bring everybody in and say, all right, this is what we got right here. We're going on the road to win these games one at a time and to kind of make that run. And once we realized we were going to the Final Four, being able to look up, see my parents, and just kind of share a moment with them and the guys on the court, those are the ones I remember. They're a little thing, remember bus trips a lot. You remember playing cards in the hotel. You remember playing cards in the plane, stuff like that.
Yeah. What did you do to stay healthy? I mean, you were a hustler. You probably took a beating sometimes. What did you do to keep your body, maintained to play at that level day in and day out?
It's funny. I don't. We didn't. There wasn't the premium on like nutrition and sport performance back then. We just we just beat each other. We beat ourselves up. That's we practiced hard every day. A little ice. Hungry Howie's at night. Maybe some Burger King. Whatever, that was my wife and I talked about it all the time, that what we would eat after practices or at night. And, you stretch a little bit beforehand, lace them up, tape your ankles. And there wasn't as much of a premium on taking care of yourselves like they are now. I mean, it's, we just kind of showed up and played. And if you were hurt, you saw the trainer and you got back on the court.
So there wasn't a nutritionist that you were following some plan at that point. Is
No.
what you're saying, yeah.
No.
And it really is a huge thing right now.
It is,
My kids play sports, and they have, they go see a trainer, and it's a big thing now.
We didn't have individual trainers like outside of the program. right? We worked with our assistant coaches in the summers. We never left campus. We were here working out together. We lifted with our guy here. You weighed in before practice and after practice to see how much water weight you lost. And then it was like, oh, grab one of the Gatorade drinks or protein shakes. And you monitored your weight. And, really when I got over to Europe was the first time anyone we were blood testing for lactic acid levels, and they were kind of tailoring practices based on where your heart rate level needed to be to get through a full season. But we didn't do too much of that when I was around here. I mean, you throw your heart rate monitor on when you're working off-season conditioning, but it's also to see how high can I get this thing.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about your experience playing overseas? I know you were in Greece.
Yeah.
And then where else were you at?
I was Greece and Finland. So my time in Greece was it was great. I almost walked on over there. I had an agent, and I kind of said, just get me a tryout, because I thought I was also working on dual citizenship at that point. And so I said, just get me a tryout. I'll fly myself over to Greece. And that's what I did. So I ended up with a team in Thessaloniki. Ares is the team, and went over there, tried out while I was working on dual citizenship, which was unbelievable. It was a really hard process because I didn't have a grandparent from Greece. I had a great grandparent from Greece.
Okay.
So I was all set. I got over there, was all set to sign. I was there maybe a month or two. We're getting the dual citizenship worked out, and they said, you have to join the Army you have to serve for 6 months. Just on the weekends, it's no big deal. And so I called my dad, and he said, you didn't join our Army. So we were not joining there, because we weren't sure what that would do to my American citizenship either if I started serving in someone else's military. Right. So I was like, all right, I'm coming back home. So I came back home, and I actually spent the rest of that year working with I was here in town with the basketball team, doing stuff around, staying in shape. And then the next year I signed for over in Finland and went over there and played. And that was great. It was an unbelievable experience. Kind of checked that bucket list of, being a professional. I wish I could say I made a ton of money. I made very little money, but it was better than getting a regular job. It was comparable to getting an entry level first job. So it was worth it. My wife, we weren't married at the time. She came with me for a couple of months. My parents got to come over and see me play. I had one of my old teammates was about 30 minutes away from me in the same country, so I got to see him. We played against each other. Competition was great. Yeah. I was in a city basically like the size of East Lansing, just east of Helsinki, or a little south of Helsinki. It was awesome. Yeah. It was a great experience.
Did you travel around Europe a lot while you were over there?
No, that's the one regret I have, is that it's easy to get around, but I didn't take advantage of it.
Okay.
So we went to Stockholm, went to Estonia, but I didn't take any the free weekends and jump on a plane and fly somewhere like I should have.
Sure.
But Europe's still there. We'll go back.
Yeah, we had Andre Hudson on, and he was talking about when he was playing overseas, I think they paid him cash in a brown bag.
Oh, he's got some great stories.
He has some great stories.
Mine was a lot. I don't have any exciting stories like that, but he was in Russia.
Yeah, right. That was where he was talking about the bags of money.
Yeah. They pay. That's a little different situation than what I had. Mine was quite tame compared to Andre. Like, my check always showed up on time. It was direct deposited. I could wire it back. Yep. Andre's got some great stories, but he played in some bigger leagues over there than I did.
Sure.
He was also talking about how the fans in the stand would be smoking, and it'd be just a whole different world.
Yeah, they were great. It was so much fun. It was so much fun. So I made some great friends. Still talk to the guys I played with over there. Still talk to some of the fans. So it was nice. An unbelievable experience.
That's cool.
So then when you finish your professional career, you come back, work for Michigan State. What did that look like?
It looked like I reached out to Mark Hollis, and I said, hey, I need a job. Man, I need a job. He wasn't AD yet. He was still running the marketing department. And so he said, he got me an internship. And then that worked into, I started as an intern in the sports marketing. So I'd be setting up tents on Saturday morning for football game for sponsors and doing all that stuff. And then that kind of morphed into the Spartan Fund, working there for a little bit of time before going into the alumni side of things. Just, the alumni engagement, working with groups from around the country, making sure the university was providing them the resources they need to engage our alums and keep them connected, when they move away from the area. So it was I was there 7 years, which was awesome. It was, coming back home, they took great care of me. And so I loved it.
So were you staying involved with the basketball team while you were with Michigan State?
Not, excuse me, not a ton. I'd pop over for practice and whatnot, but I wasn't in there lending my expertise for Iz and those guys, or just from afar, and really from a former player and in fan perspective, just being able to go over there and watch practice and hang out and how well they take care of us. So that's been kind of my involvement. Even now, still take advantage of it.
Do you still stay in touch with Izzo and other guys that you played with while you're at MSU?
Yeah, I talk to the guys I played with all the time. We see each other several times a year. We have a couple of reunions every year for anyone who played or worked in the program. So, cool. The program has maintained our access and relationships with us to where we can come to games whenever we really want to. We can call and come to games, and they've done a good job. And our reunion now gets guys from like the 40s. We've had guys from the 40s all the way up to current graduates. So we cover a wide range of experiences and people. But so that I see, and we see each other outside of that stuff too. So.
Have you done any coaching on the high school level or youth or anything like that?
Coach. Yeah. So I coach my son. I've coached my son's teams. I'm coaching his AAU team right now. He's going to be an 8th grader. So I coach him in his 8th grade team. I've coached soccer. I've coached baseball. I've coached all the youth stuff. As long as my kids will have me out there coaching, I jump in to help.
Absolutely. Are you that fiery dad? Or are you the more quiet type?
I've been both.
I know Dave's fiery.
I'm a little fiery.
Yeah, I've been both. I've done all of it. Yeah.
And I've seen that you've done some writing.
Yeah.
And I believe some speaking as well.
Yeah, I think I love learning about other people, especially in sports. I love just learning about other coaches, other players, what their story is. What are their principles or lessons that they've learned along or helped them along their way, and then how can it maybe be applied to business wise or how do I keep growing, keep learning? And sports is an easy one for me, so that tends to be where I spend my time.
Yeah, and I'd mentioned when we were emailing back and forth that you'd written I don't know if you call it article or blog or whatever. It was something about what if I missed. You were talking about that Kentucky game, and I thought that was a really good article about, because that was a big shot. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's a funny perspective because it changes. I feel like there are events that people have or go through that kind of can change trajectory, right? And so for me, that's a huge one in my sports career or my interaction with alums or other Michigan State people, right? It's like if I miss that shot, I definitely have a lot of different interactions with people when they start talking to me, because it's a moment that I share with a lot of people, because we, as our fan base and the excitement that was around that game and winning it and that shot, I get the good fortune of people coming up and telling me their stories of where they were, who they were with, or how they reacted, and then I can share from my perspective of how how it was for me and what happened after the game, and so if I miss, I have a bunch of different interactions, maybe on my career might be different from a basketball standpoint. And so it's always interesting to think about it, like, what would happen if I had missed that shot, and how could things have been different for me?
Well, and I think the point of the article, and maybe I missed it, but was that your job as an athlete, or what you wanted to make sure was you put yourself in a position to make the shot. Whether you made it or not wasn't necessarily the important thing. And I showed that to my daughter, who we talked about, committed to Pitt, and I said, this is a great perspective, I think, because the mental part of it's such a big part of the game, and I think seeing that is helpful to young athletes. Yeah,
I talked to my son would roll his eyes if I start talking to him about it. He's 14, so it's something, and I'm fortunate. My wife was a great athlete at Michigan State, and she coached there as well. So we've got that perspective to share with him. But it is like, hey, you gotta. It sounds cliche, but the process is so important to do the reps, and because opportunity does present itself, and you just don't know when it's going to be, and you got to be ready to. You got to just be ready to shoot it, and then the outcome is it's going to be what it's going to be. Right? I tell him all the time, like, what are the two outcomes when you shoot a shot? You make it or you miss it, right? That's it. We already know what's going to happen. So once you let it go, then why worry about it? We got to just make sure you're putting yourself in position that when it's time to shoot it, you're ready to shoot it, and you've put in the hours to make it happen. Because I shot that shot thousands of times, probably, in the gym working out, outside of practice with guys that are by myself or, in the driveway. It's, it's all that same thing where it all adds up. But it's just understanding like, all right, I got to put the work in. So when the opportunity does come, I'm not kicking myself or regretting the fact that I didn't, show up 15 minutes early or stay 15 minutes late and use that time wisely. I just dropped my son off at a workout right before we came, and I dropped him off. I get him there 20 minutes early. I'm like, go in there and get 10 minutes of extra shooting in before we start. And it's funny how those little time chunks can help separate yourself.
So a big thing for college athletes is facing the reality check that they might enter the regular professional career after their playing career in college. And especially with this NIL stuff now, like we were talking to Brady and Brady Pretzloff and AJ Dennis last week about, was using their NIL opportunities to set themselves up for their professional careers later on. Like Brady, I think, has an LLC. He's buying rental properties with his NIL money. How would you say that your playing career at Michigan State helped set you up and prepare you for your now post-playing career in your professional career?
I'd honestly say the biggest thing is it provided me access to people and a network immediately, and a lot of warm conversation, and it's a lot easier to get doors open when you're playing a high-level sport, a recognizable sport at Michigan State. That for me, that was the biggest thing. It's like, I know, I meet people, I have kind of an instant connection. A lot of them, they may know my name, but they don't know me, but they kind of know, my story at Michigan State. And so it's a lot of easier conversations, coming out of school. And to be honest, like being able to call Mark Hollis when I'm getting done with my career and say, hey, what's available.
Right.
That right there is just, that wouldn't happen if I hadn't been, it may have happened, but I had a pretty much 100% chance of him helping me out since I was playing basketball, and we already had a relationship. So for me, it was the network, and kind of it warmed up a lot of conversations for me. And it continues to do it. I mean, I work in accounting now, right? I'm not an accountant, but I do sales and business development for an accounting firm, and there's a lot of people my age who are at Michigan State who were, or who are in positions now or at director levels or senior director levels, and we have an instant connection and instantly something to talk about, and it makes conversations a little easier.
Right.
So
that's great.
That's what just kind of leveraging that. I think the kids now, I wouldn't, they have so much more opportunity to set themselves up for post-career by, understanding how to leverage, professionals like you guys, or how to set themselves up from LLCs, or how to best use the money. That's where I hope guys are taking advantage of the resources that are around to put themselves in a position where they're, it's not just a short-term gain from NIL money, but to be walking out of college with, some guys are walking out with millions of dollars. That's life-changing money that they can do a lot with and really set themselves up with. For a drastically different life than if they're, they got bad people around them that are, aren't advising correctly. Mm-hmm.
So utilize the NIL money, but don't forget about the connections that you make while you're there.
I think you have to do both. I think, let's be honest, money opens up a lot of avenues as well. You can use it correctly and as a tool. But 18 to 22-year-olds don't always know how to spend, hundreds of thousands of dollars that they make in a year. Mm-hmm. Adults don't know in some cases. So, just being smart and thoughtful with it, and understand, how taxes work and how businesses work, and how can you shelter's probably the wrong word, but how you can set it up. And, I just think that's a one more level of access that they can get, and be walking out of college with not only the money, but an avenue for success going forward.
We kind of talked about before we started here, if you were coming into college right now and had the career you did, right now, you'd make quite a bit of money. How do you look at it as far as, seeing the NIL, the revenue sharing and that? Do you look at it as a good thing, a bad thing? What are your thoughts?
I was all for it. But at that point, I thought it would be, you got a couple players who are doing a commercial for a car dealer, or, they're Foster Swift's paying a guy, $10,000 a year or something like that. I thought there may be more parameters around how the money would flow, who would be in charge of it. how guys could get paid. I think in some respects, the horse is out of the barn with some of it, so it's tough to claw it back. And they're doing some of it with the revenue share side of it, right? But it's still the revenue share thing to me. And I have a base level knowledge of how it's going to work, but it could, in my eyes, you're taking 20% out of an athletic department who now we have a new AD, right? His sole focus is fundraising. Probably for that respect, right? He's got a delta that he's got to fill because 20% of it's going out to my athletes. I got to figure out how to keep these other sports afloat. I got to be able to pay coaches. We got so I think it's different than what I had initially thought it was going to be. I never thought it would be to this level of dollar figures of what guys would be getting.
Yeah.
But kudos to them if that's what the NCAA or the whoever's in charge of it is put into place. They're playing within the parameters that are there for them to play in. It's just it's inching more and more to pro sports, which it is at the football, basketball level. Even there'll be some women's basketball players who are making a lot of money. So I think it's way different than I initially thought NIL was going to work itself out to be. But
well, back in 2021, then when they officially legalized it, all I was thinking about was the video game. I was like, this video game's going to come out, and that's probably as far as it's going to go. And then it just blew up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it all blew up. And it's very similar. I mean, probably if you look back to how AAU basketball has gone, once shoe dollars and money got into it, and then when there's a lot of money, all of a sudden there's a lot of different people who start seeing, how do I get my hooks in, and how do I make money off of this? And so you get a lot of people who are trying to make money off kids, and so kids are brands essentially, and it's hard to build your own business and be a brand and still be the best in the sport. And so what are you going for dollars? Are you going for championships? What are you playing for now is something that I think people have to think through. And then, what, like a MAC level school, they're how do they keep kids? How do they keep players versus, just becoming all right, you're going to be here and be good for 2 years. We're a jumping off point for you to go to a Power 5. It will trickle down to where those schools, they're not going to be able to keep players at all. I mean, and even like Ivy League schools, they got kids sitting out now. I'm going to graduate, then I'll go for a year somewhere else. And, it's all going to change.
Well, and I think it's really those unintended consequences that a lot of people are seeing now. One of them we kind of talked about earlier was, really 1-year contracts. So the basketball player has a great year. He wants to test his value, jumps in the portal. Might do that 3 times.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to fix the problem. There are going to be issues, but I would leave that to attorneys like you guys to figure out contracts but employment. Are they employees? How is that taxed? How are they looked at? Can they start being fired? Because for a while there, you gave a kid a scholarship. It was impossible. You can't claw it back. So they were 4-year scholarships. So how do scholarships change? How does it all work out?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of the agreements we've seen, schools are trying to push payments back until after the transfer portal closes, and just to keep people there. And so it's interesting to see what different schools do.
Yeah, sooner or later, I would think, are you gonna have buyout clauses in there for kids? Like, you want to transfer, you have a buyout clause in your NIL contract of X amount of dollars. Yeah. I would assume that would happen, but I don't know, and I also don't know who's in charge of it all. Right. Like who's kind of leading the way of saying this is how things are going to get done. Like, it just, I'm not sure who's leading who.
Yeah. Well, and like you said, a big part of it is kind of building your personal brand. I mean, Tim, do you think back in your playing days, you would have been the social media influencer type? Would you be doing TikTok dances in the locker room?
No, I'd be so embarrassed to do that. I can't even dance at a Myers just walking on the down the aisle. So I'm sure I would have done some of it, but because it like everything else, the more eyes you can get on yourself, the more valuable you are, the more brands want to pay you. You got to maximizing your earning potential, and for me, I had enough time. I had to spend enough time in the gym. I don't know if I'd have time to make TikToks and still do school too.
Yeah.
So, with the knowledge of all the NIL and revenue sharing going on, what advice do you have to athletes coming up? And it sounds like your son might be going through that process pretty soon, so you might be.
I hope so. I honestly, I would say find good people to be around you. Keep that circle small, and find accountants, find lawyers, find people who can help you set this thing up correctly. Because the last thing you want to do is walk out of there and have just kind of squandered what the opportunity is. Because, a lot of these kids are going to leave school, and some of them are going to have made more in college than they're going to make in their first year on a job. So that's going to be a little sticker shock right there for them of what they're walking into in the working world. But find a way to set yourself up and maximize it for the long term. It's easy to look at it from a short term standpoint, but with the dollars that are being thrown around now, you can do a lot of good for yourself and for your future family just by structuring things correctly.
Mm-hmm.
So, is your son started that process?
No. He's got his mom around him. Thankfully, she's the smart one. He's only I hope we get to that point. If we do, that'll be where I start. I'm lucky to know enough people around here in this area. And, like a guy like Andre or DT, whose son's going to go through it. They're going to go, Mateen, their kids are going to go through it before mine ever would. And if we're, lucky enough that he's good enough to play somewhere and go through that, then I'll, be talking to those guys to say, all right, how did you guys handle this? Who did you work with? What mistakes did you make? That's where, those guys are still my older brothers in that respect. So I call them for questions on stuff all the time. And I do it with them now. Like, how did you guys handle working your kids out? What did you guys do right, wrong? Who are you working with? I still call them. So it would be the same questions, but I would leverage the network that I have to just ask as many questions and get the right people around and set it up the way it needs to be set up. Because I don't know. I know what I know. I know I don't know how to structure an NIL package for anybody. Mm-hmm. But I know enough people that do.
Tim, so for a high school athlete that's not like a highly recruited star, mm-hmm. I know you mentioned a little bit that you were sending emails out, trying to get your name out there, and we had our MSU guys on last week, and they talked about when they were in high school, really they had to be advocates for themselves and reach out to school, D3, like starting with D3 schools and then work their way up. What advice would you have for a high school recruit that maybe is having a tough time getting their name out there?
You just got to keep going forward through it. Just keep doing the thing, right? You got to trust the process. Is such a, like I said earlier, it's a cliche, but you just have to do the thing and just send more. You reach out more. You have to kind of make yourself a little bit of a pest and undeniable to say, I at least need to get an answer. Or as bad as you want, you have to almost create your own opportunity. And if that's calling every day, if that's, we had a walk-on here who just rode his bike to the basketball office and just every day just would ride his bike up there just to see if he could get an opportunity. So that's what it is. I mean, and there's a lot of noise out there now, right? So you have to, you got to send your tweets out, or you got to, your links, and you reach out to coaches and your DMs and talk to your high school coach. Who does your high school coach know who might know somebody? It's just kind of constantly getting that information out there and trying to find someone who can unlock an opportunity for you.
Sure.
Any chance we see you coaching at the high school level when your son gets it?
I don't know. We have, we're in Okemos. We have a pretty good, Coach Wanch is out there. He's done a good job with the team. I would probably help in some aspect. Sooner or later, I don't want to coach him anymore. I love coaching him, but I like him hearing from other people and other coaches. So I'll probably be sitting in the stands and helping in the summers when I can, and he works out with me in the summers, and another. We got another guy out in Okemos who played at Eastern Michigan, so I get him around to really teach him some shooting and stuff like that. So I don't know if I'd ever take a head coaching job. I'd never say never, but I'm not looking for it.
Do you have a take on how MSU squad's looking this year for this upcoming season?
I don't yet. I haven't been able to go see them in the summer. I'm gonna go watch. I'm actually gonna take some kids over to Moneyball tonight and see some of them. Now, I always think that's the best representation of how the season's going to be. Mm-hmm. But I think we're going to be a pretty athletic. We seem very athletic. We'll have some size down low. I would have loved for us to get a big guy in the portal who could score a little bit. But I love Coop and I love Jackson Kohler a lot. So they're favorites in our house.
I read yesterday Cooper's going to start shooting 3-pointers.
Great. I love it. I love it. We've always, we've had stretch big guys who could shoot threes on the fast break, and he'll get a lot of them with some of those wings running down the sidelines. But I think we're going to be athletic. We seem big and strong, physical. Mm-hmm. So I think it's a good group that will love to coach. The expectation will be a lot on some of these guys that are coming in, and we need Kurt Tang to step up a little bit. We're gonna need Flight 55 flying around out there, knocking out some shots.
He's fun to watch.
I think he's gonna take a good step this year.
Oh, he's electric.
He really is.
I'm with you. And the things the videos I've seen, and probably like everybody else, I'm always scouring for clips somewhere. My son's talking to me about it. So I'm excited for the year. I think we'll be a tough, hard-nosed team. We'll play hard. We'll get up and down the court. We'll see. You never know. It sucks with Glenn getting hurt. Before we even got a chance to see him on the court. But that opportunity then is there's minutes for some guys to step in there and fill some roles.
Kind of like what you talked about earlier with you.
Yeah, You just never know. You never want it to become because of injury, but this gives some guys a chance to kind of step up and play a little bit.
Well, great. Thanks so much for joining us today. Really enjoyed talking to you. Hopefully we can have you back at some point. And thanks again.
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Yeah, this was great, and you guys let me know anytime. I would love it. This was awesome. I appreciate it.
All right, thanks.